Hello there, White Sox fans. Happy Labor Day. And we are in September, which of course means it's time for September call-ups. But in addition to those new faces, there's been a lot of transactions lately with the team. We're going to take a look at all those moves really quickly as we take a peek at what this team is going to look like for the final month of the season and just do an overall check-in on the team. I also wanted to let you know that I'll be back right here very quickly with a video that is a look back at the trade deadline. This is the first time, I think in like 5 years, I didn't do a live countdown video while it was going on. I was just traveling, unable to make it happen. I missed doing it. That's always such a fun thing every year, watching the news come in and live react. Also, interacting with you all is, makes that a really fun event. So it was unfortunate that I couldn't make it happen this time around. But it's interesting to be able to look back at the trade deadline now that a month has passed, because we can already analyze how those trades have looked. As we know, there weren't huge trades for the White Sox this year, but still there was a lot of activity. There's always a lot of activity around the team, and with just about every single team, the White Sox were no different. So I'll be back here with that video really quickly. So be sure you're subscribed and ring the bell if you want to catch that video. When we were talking about the changes in the team in September moving forward, of course, the big news is that Luis is done for possibly the season. He'll be out for an extended amount of time, most likely with a hamstring pull yet again. He's had a fairly good season, ups and downs as always. It was another year, which this is not always a given, where he logged over 100 games played. We're going to take a look at his stats on the year to see really how his year stacked up. It was a tale of a bad start and a pretty solid rest of the year, but we'll see how it looks as a whole. Middle of August on, White Sox designating Jacob Amaya. He was only up briefly. Sean Burke, as we know, Sean Burke has been sent down, and so has Jonathan Cannon. These are by definition demotions, but I don't think, and hopefully the players themselves don't take them as demotions. This is part of the growing process as a young professional athlete. You get some big league time, and then you get sent down to work things out. These guys have been with the team all year long. They are picking up their biggest workloads of their careers. I love that they're being sent down, because they're not being sent down because they were just terrible. Yeah, they're running out of steam a little bit, sure. But they're being sent down so that they can eventually get called back up. And that might not happen until next year. Maybe it'll happen this year. But whatever the case, it's giving them a chance for a little bit of a breather off of the main stage. Just look at how that worked for Colson Montgomery, who, of course, yes, he wasn't sent up and sent down, but he wasn't even with the minor league team. He was working out on his own at the Arizona complex. And once he gets his call up, boy, he's figured things out. He wasn't looking great in the minor leagues. He spent some time back at the Arizona complex, eventually gets that big league call, and he's been pretty outstanding. He's a streaky hitter right now, which is very common for a very, very, very young rookie. But he's showing that he deserves to be a big leaguer. And in time, he can hopefully figure out how to get out of those slumps quicker. But man, the power is there, which I didn't see that coming with Colson Montgomery. Yeah, I thought he'd have some power, but he's showing a lot more power than I was expecting. Winkleman Gonzalez getting the call up August 20th, and he's stuck with the team. He's looking really sharp. I love that the White Sox called up Korey Lee. It's something that I hoped that they would do earlier in the summer. To be honest with you, I thought one thing that might be keeping him down there is just the need for catching in the minor leagues. But I love that the White Sox have that flexibility, that they can have one of their three catchers in DH, another serving as catcher while there's somebody on the bench in case there needs to be an injury substitution. I'm a big fan and have been a big fan of Korey Lee. He's one of those rare catchers that has speed. He's young. Those knees won't hold up forever, but for the time being, he's a catcher with speed, and I believe in his bat, even though he's been a little sketchy. He's been hit and miss. Of course, his first game up, he gets a home run, makes me look good. Josh Rojas being DFA'd and then eventually released. It's not a surprise. I was rooting for him because he's a Hawaii guy. And of course, I have a big connection to Hawaii as well. And you know, he was at Manoa. I've got a lot of friends that went there. So I was certainly rooting for him. He's a guy that showed some spark at different times in his earlier career, but without question, he wasn't putting it together at the big league level this year. He was relegated to a bench role, didn't get very much playing time. So I wish the best for him. I don't mind the fact that he got cut. White Sox calling up Will Robertson. I don't know about this one. Lately, the White Sox have always been pretty shallow in outfield depth. And with Luis going down, that just really shows it with Will Robertson getting called up. somebody. We'll take a look in this video at how he's been doing in the minor leagues, but at the big league level, he looks overmatched. On the 29th, White Sox recall Tim Elko, Aaron Civale, who was claimed off waivers to the Cubs. So, of course, Civale came over with that trade with the Brewers. In both cases, with Vaughn and Civale, both instances, the players did not have a place on their team. White Sox were definitely done with Andrew Vaughn. He goes over to the Brewers. Civale comes over to the White Sox, and he did, I think, more or less what was asked of him. I was hoping, and I'm sure he was hoping as well, that he would have a much better time and would be then flipped at the deadline to a playoff-bound team. Well, that happened without being able to flip him for anything. But the Cubs pick Civale up as a little veteran depth in the bullpen. And I'm sure Civale is happy to go to a place where he has a bigger possibility for a spotlight, because he is going into his free agency this coming year. Probably not going to command very much, but if he has a good last month with the Cubs and makes that playoff roster, he could really boost his value. He's not going to be boosting his value with the White Sox. Also, he hasn't really done too much. He's been an innings eater, which has value, but not a ton of value. When we're talking about trying to get a big free agent deal, I would be surprised if he got more than a one-year deal next year. And then the White Sox reselect the contract of Bryce Wilson, who gets the call-up, a good swingman option. He had some hit and miss moments earlier in the year and ultimately was sent down, and I was happy to see him sent down to hopefully work things out. We will also check in on how he has done since the White Sox sent him down. A guy who can pick up a start and go 3-4 innings, somebody that, if in the best case scenarios, maybe a Mike Vassell type of player, but he just hasn't had the results yet. So heading into this month, the call-ups were Fraser Ellard, who ended up getting the start today, taking Aaron Civale's spot, just mostly as an opener. He had a really strong first inning, but I don't think he's stretched out as a starting pitcher. We'll take a look at what he's been doing in the minor leagues. And then Bryan Ramos, a guy who I thought was going to be our opening day third baseman. He was injured at the beginning of the season. And then, of course, Miguel Vargas ended up showing that, oh, wow, he's a major leaguer, which we didn't know last year. Vargas looked terrible last year and has put together a pretty nice year so far this year. So Ramos gets the call up. We'll see how his minor league year has been. And maybe we'll just jump into both of these guys straight away. In the minor leagues this year, Bryan Ramos has appeared in 95 games. Head over here, only batting .218, which I know batting average isn't everything, but it's something, especially when you're looking in the minor leagues. If you're only managing a .218 batting average, that's not great. On base percentage over 300, you'd want that as your floor. He's .317, slugging .391. So he's, when he is getting hits, he's getting extra base hits. On base plus slugging, .708. Not terrible, not great. I would like to see that higher, but also, not terrible. 14 home runs and doubles and 1 triple. He's got 40 walks to go against 83 strikeouts. And he's also stolen 13 bases, which that is not part of his game that I knew he had. 13 this year, 8 the previous year, 4 the year before that. So he's definitely working on being more aggressive and smart on the base paths. So that's interesting. With Miguel Rojas gone and then Miguel Vargas going down with injury just the other day on August 29th, expected to be out for 2 weeks. There's a definite need at third base. So I wonder if Bryan Ramos would have gotten the call up had Miguel Vargas not gotten injured just recently. But it's certainly still good to see him get that call up because he logged some significant time last year, 32 games, 99 at-bats. On base plus slugging was quite low, but again, that was his first taste of big league action. He did log 3 home runs, 4 doubles. So welcome back to the big leagues, Bryan Ramos. Fraser Ellard is a pitcher that we have seen this year already in very limited action, just 9 games, of which 1 was a start. I'm guessing he was an opener. He's logged just 9 1/3 innings, 4.82 ERA. So this is a great time of year to pick up some bullpen depth, not just because it's late in the season, but also because the White Sox are in the middle of that stretch of 17 consecutive days with a game without a day off. But let's see what Fraser has done in the minor leagues. Also not so good. In AAA, he's appeared in 23 games, all relief, logged a 2-1 record, 6.48 ERA. He has not been playing in the closer's role at all. He has picked up 3 holds. So again, just getting some fresh arms back there is more than anything else. He does not have a ton of big league experience, as we see here, just a total of 34 games. So he's a guy that hopefully the White Sox can continue to develop, as he's still controllable in his pre-arbitration years for a couple of more years. Before we take a look at some of the other players the White Sox have called up recently, we are going to take a look at what Luis has done this year so far. Just straight away, looking at WAR, 1.3 this year, which for a superstar type player, 1.3 is not superstar level. But it is a sizable improvement over the previous year, which is just a 0.5. I'm really surprised. I don't know how they come up with some of these numbers, especially when you're looking at defensive value. I don't think Luis was ever a negative. But last year they had him at a negative 2.1 defensively and a positive 4.4 this year. I'd say definitely a big time positive both years, and maybe even more this year, but I can never imagine Luis being listed as a negative when it comes to his defensive value. If nothing else, he always brings value in the field, and a lot at that. We see his power really has not come back to his 2023 levels. 14 home runs each of the last 2 years, 100 games last year, 110 games played this year, plate appearances about the same. Obviously a step up in how many bases he's stealing each year, as we see Luis down here in this ad for White Sox tickets. 33, first time he's passed 30 stolen bases, and actually it's 10 steals better than last year, which was his previous career high. So that is a part of his game that he's trying to grow, but that adds a lot of mileage. Stolen bases are hard, and they're hard on the body. As the recently passed, I cannot believe we've already lost Ryne Sandberg, one of the greats of Chicago sports. I don't care that he was a Cub. He was just one of the greatest players. Very much a privilege to grow up watching him. Rhino stole, I think it was 40 or so bases one year, and then never approached near those numbers again. And when he was asked why, he said, it was just too hard on my body. I couldn't stay healthy and while being a good base stealer. And we see also his batting average last year, 224, this year, 223. His on-base percentage went up, so maybe he was a little bit more disciplined at the plate, but his slugging percentage went down. His WRC plus, 84 to 83. So the thing that was really surprising to me when looking at his stats is just how even it is with last year. I really thought he took some big steps up, but that's also clouded by the fact that he got off to such a slow start this year. As we see here in March, his on base plus slugging was 601. For the month of May, it was 521. And then we see an upturn back up to the mid 600s. And then in July, 990, almost 1,000 on base plus slugging for a month. And then August, he was still around 700. So he definitely had a much better, and we can see here actually pre and post All-Star game, which again, pre-All-Star game still includes a couple of weeks of July where he was hot, 600 on base plus slugging to 808. So he definitely was coming alive in the second half. So it's really unfortunate that we might lose him for the rest of this season. I don't know if anybody else remembers, but when the White Sox signed Michael A. Taylor in the offseason, the belief, the reasoning, I should say, was that, hey, we're going to give Luis more time in the outfield corners. He's going to have less responsibility. Center field has to cover a lot of ground, not so much in the corners. How much? Yeah, so he's literally not played any outfield corners this year. Luis hasn't. 105 games in the outfield, all 105 in center field. So what happened there? Did Luis put his foot down and say, I don't want to do that? Or what? Or maybe that was Chris Getz coming up with that line. Will Venable was never on board with it. He certainly wasn't forced to play Luis out there. He picked up 4 games at DH to give him some time to be in the lineup while getting him out of the outfield. And this is not to say that had Luis had more innings in the corner outfields than center field, that he'd still be healthy. But still, it's funny that that was the rationale they gave, and it did not come to pass at all. Just have to put that on record. Again, taking a look at some guys that have been called up recently, we have Bryce Wilson, who, let's take a quick look. When was the last time he pitched a big league game with the White Sox? That was back on June 8th, and he was sporting a 6.95 ERA. So he's been down for a few months. Let's see what he's done in the minor leagues. So with AAA Charlotte, he has appeared in 14 games, of which half of them were starts. So definitely trying to keep that swingman role, make sure he's comfortable coming out of the bullpen or starting the game. He's even thrown a shutout. Am I seeing that? He's thrown a shutout. That's amazing. He's done the circuit. He has a complete game shutout, which is the only kind of shutout you can have, a hold and a save. And he's 1-for-1 in save opportunities with a 3.86 ERA. Let's see, we have about 40 innings pitched in those 14 games. Solid numbers, really impressive. Not what I was expecting to see. He's only walked 8 people. That's all right, against 36 strikeouts, allowing a 260 batting average against. All right, hopefully we have a new look Bryce Wilson that's going to turn some heads and cement his status for a regular part of the team next year. I just had to look this up because Bryce Wilson's been around longer than I realized. He's playing right now in his second year of ARB eligibility on a $1 million contract, and he is ARB eligible next year. So the White Sox do have control over him. I would say if he pitches like he did at the beginning of this year, he's a non-tender candidate. But if he pitches like he's been pitching in the minor leagues, he is absolutely, I'd say, a lock to get picked up for next year. Because even on a $1 million salary, from this year, that's going to go up next year. It's not going to go up that much, maybe 2.5 million at the most, unless he finishes the end of this season like Mariano Rivera. However, he's probably not going to get those close opportunities. So yeah, we'll see. He could become an important part of the team next year. Tim Elko, hometown hero, everybody's favorite, but he certainly needed more conditioning in the minor leagues. As we see, he was only batting 136 up here. He had a total of 9 hits and 66 at-bats, but of those 9 hits, 4 were monster home runs. So he's a guy with definite power. Let's see what his minor league season has looked like. He is not yet, he just got called up pretty recently. Actually, let's see, has he gotten into any games so far this year since he's got called back up? He did get a chance to face off against the Yankees, went 0-for-4 with 2 strikeouts, and then came in, I think probably as a defensive replacement just today. I didn't even notice that he got pulled into the game. But let's see what he has done in the minor leagues this year. Now, this is going to be cumulative the entire season, so not just since he got sent down. Batting .292, on base plus slugging in the upper or mid 900s, 936. So that's the kind of numbers you want to see, that kind of dominant type of numbers you want to see in the minor leagues that will hopefully translate to the major leagues. He's hit 24 minor league home runs this year on top of the 4 in the majors he hit. He's creeping up on 30 home runs on the season. Can he hit 2? Will he get enough plate appearances to hit 2 more home runs this year and hit a total combined 30 home runs this year? This guy, he has the juice. He's got the power. If he can do this in the major leagues, 292, that's asking a lot, of course. But if he can hit maybe 250 with 30 home runs, well, that's already a huge step up over somebody like Andrew Vaughn. The sky's the limit to some degree with Elko. He's a first baseman, so he's not like Mike Trout where he's got the insane defense also, but he is a legit power bat that hopefully will play long-term in the middle of this White Sox lineup. But first, he's got to get the playing time, and I do hope we see more of Tim Elko in the month of September. Okay, Will Robertson, I don't know much about him, which I think is part of why I just don't even know what to think of this guy. In his career, he played for the Blue Jays earlier this year. The White Sox picked him up on waivers. He has spent some time in the minor leagues with the White Sox. Let's see what he's done in Charlotte. 284 batting average, 915 on base plus slugging. I'm impressed. So he has earned his way back up here. Hopefully he's not too overmatched. He's 27 years old, so he's not a prospect the way you would think of a prospect. In just 27 games, so it is a small sample size, 27 games, he has picked up 31 hits, of which 10 are doubles, 1's a triple, 6 home runs. He is not a base stealing threat, but the White Sox are so thin in the outfield that is definitely enough production to earn a place on the team right now. One last thing I want to talk about is where do the White Sox stand as a team overall? Anybody that's been closely paying attention to my channel knows that I have been tracking how the White Sox and the 2024 White Sox and the 2025 Rockies have been shaping up. And as things stand right now, the White Sox are a good 10 games ahead of the Rockies. However, the Rockies are 8 games ahead of the 2024 White Sox in that battle to see who the most historically bad team of all time is. Honestly, the Rockies only need to win a couple more games, 2 more games to tie the White Sox from last year, 3 to pass. And it's looking super likely that that's what's going to happen. I said it at the time that huge 20-game losing streak that the White Sox had in the middle of the summer last year is going to be that spot where the Rockies catch up. Because as we see here, game 95, through 115, the White Sox did not win at all. And at the beginning of that losing streak, they were 5 games ahead of the Rockies, but by the end of that streak, they were 3 games behind the Rockies. So the Rockies didn't exactly blow them out of the water. They lost quite a few games as well, but just doing absolutely nothing for a month is enough to allow even the Rockies to pass you. Now, the Rockies, I think, are playing worse than they were in the first half. But even in the first half, the Rockies weren't going on very long, extended losing streaks. They're starting to rack up some losing streaks. As you see, game 110 to 118. That's an 8-game losing streak right there. They obviously have still gone on a little run there. They had, 4 or 5 consecutive wins after that to put them safely ahead of the White Sox of last year. So, as we know, the White Sox last year had a really strong end to the year. That win streak started with win number 37, which the Rockies already passed. So, I don't think the White Sox will be able to avoid the distinction as having the historically worst team of all time. Even the Rockies are going to end up better than the 2024 White Sox were, which is saying something. But speaking of that, looking at all of baseball, as we see here, the White Sox have a nice 10.5 game lead over the Rockies for worst team of the year. Just 4.5 back at the Nationals. Usually at the stage of the season where your team is not playing for anything, the last thing you want to do is have them start to win a lot of games and then hurt their draft position next year. But we actually don't have to worry about that here. The White Sox have I'd say a fairly good chance to pass the Nationals, even though the Nats hold a 4.5 game lead. But the White Sox do have a 3-game set against them. So they have a direct matchup, as you see by the run score differential, -178 to -91. Both teams bad by all means, but that's considerably better. The White Sox, on paper, at least right here, look like a much better team than the Nationals. They should win that series. Hopefully they sweep it, but at least take 2 of 3, and that would make a difference there. Heading over to tankathon.com, we see what the odds are for getting the number 1 draft pick. Right now, the White Sox are in the lead. It is a lottery, so we don't know for sure how it's going to shake out, but the teams that are worse than the White Sox, and especially if the White Sox pass the Nationals, the 2 teams that the White Sox actually would be behind, the Rockies and the Nationals, since they finished in the top 10 or bottom 10 last year, they are ineligible to get a number 1 draft pick this year, which puts the White Sox firmly at the best odds of getting that number 1 draft pick. But still, it's only a 5% difference between White Sox and Pittsburgh. Certainly, the White Sox should get the number 1 or 2 position. I don't love that baseball has taken on the NBA style lottery when it comes to the draft picks. This is what we have. So this is what we're looking at with the White Sox odds on favorite to have the number 1 pick next year. If they don't pick first, they're almost certainly going to pick second. And if that doesn't happen, then I really, really hate the draft system being a lottery based. So we'll see how it shakes out, but that's how things look right now. The White Sox, as I'm recording this, just picked up win number 50 on the year, which is a small thing when you're thinking all teams should win at least 60 games a year. That's not a given for the White Sox, but realistically speaking, the White Sox do have a chance to hit 60 wins on the year. And if they can do just a couple more than that, they can avoid 100 losses. That is not a given by any stretch of the imagination. But if the White Sox play some good baseball, which we've seen at times, so there is a chance, there's hope for it, the White Sox could potentially avoid another 100-loss season. That would be somewhat miraculous, but it is possible, and it's a reason to watch and cheer on this team, unlike last year, which you just really didn't have any reason to watch. Last year's team I can't believe I watched as many games as I did in hindsight, because there weren't even players to root for. Not that you're rooting against them, but now that we have people like Chase Mydroth, who's my new favorite player to watch, Colson Montgomery, Kyle Teal, Edgar Caro, a reemergent Miguel Vargas. There's so many reasons to watch this team. So many players that are fun to watch. Of course, Vargas is coming back from injury right now. Oh, and don't sleep on Brooks Baldwin. He is one of my favorite players that I'm rooting for. He's not a team leader type, but the White Sox converted him from an infielder to an outfielder, and he's doing pretty well out there. I am really having a lot of fun watching Brooks Baldwin. He's got a lot to learn still. He's a very young player, but there's all of these guys that are really fun to root for and easy to like too, which isn't always the case in baseball or professional sports at all. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video very quickly. Play ball and go Sox.